I'm standing here with, what's your name, sir?
Patrick Redding.
Patrick Redding. And he's showing us a demo of Far Cry. I believe it's finally coming out for Xbox, only the Xbox exclusive. Now, was it the Xbox that was the only system that could currently handle this game?
Actually, we've got other teams starting to do development on additional platforms. So really, I mean, Xbox is certainly coming out first in current gen. And we're starting to look at feasibility on other things. I mean, definitely one of the challenges with trying to adapt a PC game like Far Cry with all these amazing draw distances and giant environments was trying to make it work on a console. And so what we really wanted to make sure that we preserved from the original experience was that idea that the player can really tackle the game in their own way, using their own style, their own method, maybe try the levels of many different ways, see all the different ways that they can get around. That's tough to do on a console, but we figured out a ways to do it.
Now, one of the most amazing things I've heard about Far Cry is the AI. This AI is not like your typical AI. These guys what exactly will they do?
All right, well, we call it our procedural AI, and what you saw just now where that guy went after the barrel, that's not a scripted event. What he's doing is he has as part of his AI behavior. Oh, hang on, new trouble. Yes, so this is the Chucker. This is actually the first of our new feral adversaries for Jack Carver. Basically, he received the same injection that Jack Carver did, but it didn't take very well. So he experienced that kind of weird distortions. We have several enemies that the player will be able to fight against like that. So I'll talk a bit about the mercenary AI, though. So basically, the way we wanted to set this up is we wanted, because it's a console game, we really wanted for the player to be able to go after all of the objectives of the game in their own way. That meant being able to treat it like a stealth action game, being able to treat it like a pure shooter. So that meant we needed a mercenary AI that was going to be wise enough to actually deal with the player in all these different ways. It also meant that we wanted the mercenaries to communicate with each other and go about their business and carry out their duties the way they would normally. So the kinds of things we see is if I'm taking a stealth action approach, if I'm sneaking around, if I'm backstabbing, if I'm setting traps, because we have now a trap mechanic for the game, if I'm setting traps, they'll know I'm around, they'll go into a certain alert status where they start to scour the area, they'll go into search patterns, then they'll try to flush me out using grenades, they'll try to outflank me. On the other hand, if I'm being really aggressive, they might fall back to a more defensible position. Just like you saw there, they might use elements of their environment to try to slow me down, and then they're going to try to use overwhelming firepower to take me out.
So it's really another level up, and this kind of leads to my next question. It's a little far-fetched, but we're a long ways off the days of Pong. And you know, with the movies like The Matrix and stuff like that, do you ever worry about one day this software might go, you know what, I don't want to be killed anymore? How far do you think we are away from actually giving software sentience?
Well, you know what? I think the one thing we can take some encouragement from is that as we get more sophisticated with our AI, I think we're going to find new and different things to do with our AI other than just hunting them down and killing them. I think right now, of course, things are a little limited. Obviously, video games started out pretty much as exercises in eye-hand coordination.
We've come a long way, though.
Oh, we've definitely come a long way. And I mean, I know of games that are being worked on at Ubisoft right now that really definitely focus a lot more on interacting with characters in sophisticated ways. That have a full range of behaviors where you can coerce people, you can threaten people, you can seduce people, you can bribe people, all those sorts of things. I mean, that's, to me, I mean, I'm oversimplifying grossly when I use those examples, but I mean, that is kind of the other end of the spectrum for us. We really want to make sure that, as we're getting the ability to give our NPCs this kind of sophisticated behavior, that we're really taking full advantage of it.
Voice recognition software. I was really surprised with certain games on how much you can actually talk to your computer AI. Do you see eventually maybe one day we'll forego the joystick?
Well, it's an interesting question because, I mean, obviously controllers I mean, it's a limited form of input, but it's not a bad form of input because, we're tactile creatures. We like to use our hands to do things. I think there are certain things that voice is great for. And I mean, obviously, if we want to move into games that are much more about human interaction, voice is going to be one way of doing that because you can talk to people. Maybe we can detect the tone of your voice, your intent that way. But I mean, we're a long way from being able to have that level of subtlety and that kind of interaction.
I heard a current statistic the other day that over half the world now has played or will play or are playing video games. There doesn't seem to be that many reward systems for the community. As a gamer, I had to fight with my girlfriends, my parents, I'm sure maybe you had to do the same thing. What can rewards do you think that might be possible either through television or movies or something that you think the gaming community, how do you think the community as a whole can get paid to play? I mean, how do you think that something like that could happen?
Well, we need to grow up first. first as an industry. I mean, I think people need to bear in mind that, you know, film has been around for over 100 years. They've had 100 years to kind of not only work out, you know, how to do it, but why to do it and what kinds of stories to tell. And I think we need to grow up. I mean, we're in a really nascent stage of our development, even though, you know, games have been around for 30 years, but we're still kind of we're at the Buster Keaton stage, you know, if you want to use the movie analogy. And I think, you know, if we want to be rewarded for doing what we do and having an interest in games, if we want to be rewarded for playing them, then we as game developers need to start creating games that have some social merit, or tell stories that are more accessible to a larger range of people other than, you know, 14 and 15-year-old boys. Yeah. So I think if we can move in that direction, and we're starting to. I mean, you're seeing a lot of games coming out now that are going to have a broad appeal both to women and men, to all different ages. I think, especially with the advent of like a lot of web-based games that we see, like the MSN Game Zone, something like that. You know, what we're seeing now is even like older women who you never would have thought of as gamers are starting to become a huge
senior gaming league right out of the Texas QuakeCon.
Exactly, super huge. I mean, and I think that's phenomenal. I think it's a really good way to go because, I mean, look, we can either sort of be relegated to the ghetto of sort of you know, kind of adolescent play, or we can turn into something that everybody can get some benefits out of, right?
I have two more questions for you. One relates to something that Sony has gotten a new patent on. I don't know if you heard this or not.
Oh, yeah.
They have patented the technology to beam ultrasonic frequencies right into the brain. I mentioned the Matrix before. This stuff will be able to make you see, feel, touch, hear, say. Do you think the only difference between our society and the society represented in the Matrix is that we're voluntarily going into it?
Well, we're getting dangerously close to philosophy now. I mean, I'm not so sure that the world of the Matrix didn't come about voluntarily at some point. No, I mean, I think what we're looking at is varying degrees of comfort. I mean, you know, certainly there are generations of people who have issues with any kind of technology, and as we advance, you know, in the years, I think we all get outpaced by the next piece of technology. You know, our kids and our grandkids are going to be willing to participate in technological activity in ways that would kind of horrify the rest of us, you know, currently. I mean, I don't know. It's easy to imagine a kind of dystopian cyberpunk future where everyone's got sockets in the back of their head and they spend their days drooling in front of some kind of, you know, completely immersive simulation. But I mean, at the end of the day, there has to be a good reason to do it. There also has to be, you know, good reasons to not do it. And I think the main point is that human experience and human activity encompasses things that are, you know, that are a lot more important ultimately than playing video games. I think what's cool about that technology is that, as always, you know, the cream will rise to the top. I think that when humans find that technology, they spend an awful lot of time initially kind of screwing around, not really sure what to do with it, trying to make pretty colors or more polygons or what have you. I think what eventually happens is people get bored of that, and I think then the people who are doing something that's worth looking at, you know, their stuff becomes a new benchmark that everything else is compared to. So I'm not really worried that we're going to be spending, you know, whiling away our days playing sort of the 21st century equivalent of Pong. But I think that, you know, definitely people need to be balancing that with getting exercise and going outside.
Well said. It's about a balance of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
My final question gets into something a little bit of a hot topic today.
Okay.
Hillary Clinton has just announced a proposed budget for $90 million into the event, and she's going to investigate the social, economical effects of video games. Now, she represents more of the right-wing side of the industry, you know, the guys like Lieberman. Now, in contrast to that, we just visited America's Army booth.
Right.
You got the U.S. government making full Extreme Warrior. They're making millions off of these games. Yeah. They're hoping it helps with recruitment.
Right.
Do you see a problem there?
Potentially, yeah, of course. I mean, look, here's the thing. Video games are a medium. I mean, they happen to be a different kind of medium. It would be really surprising to me if an organization with the resources of the U.S. military didn't try to use video games. I mean, they're already using them for their own training purposes anyway. It's, you know, there's probably actually some really good, compelling reasons for them to be doing this. I think it may be elevating the quality of their recruits, quite frankly.
Do you think they're banking on the fact that video games violence encourages real violence? And would you say that's an accurate portrayal? Because I played Grand Theft Auto, and anybody who's played Grand Theft Auto, at some point you will get a sniper rifle, you will go up to a tower, and you will start pegging off computer AI. But personally, for me, when I saw that, and I know the more realistic it looks, I feel bad. I'm more of a light side Jedi. Do you think the gaming community, when they play it out on a video game, do you think that actually motivates them to do it in real life?
No. I think that I think there are people who have, have predilections for violence for various reasons that are way too complicated to get into now. And I think that, things can set people off, and it can be anything. It could be a book, it could be a song you heard, it could be a piece of graffiti you saw written on the wall, it could be the guy cutting you off in traffic. I mean, look, at what point do we say people are responsible for their own behavior, or to a certain extent, to what extent is society responsible for other people's pathologies, right? I mean, as an industry, we have the same responsibility really to ourselves to try to not just be completely gratuitous and exploitative. I mean, without naming names about titles, I think there are games that can use violence very, very effectively and in an emotionally compelling way. And there's games that are strictly, they're pornography in a sense.
Well, I mean, one thing that, I don't think Hillary Clinton and these guys understand is that the games today are all about choice.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any, a lot of parents, they use video games as a babysitting tool. Right. They just let their kids off. And if I think parents today got to get more involved. And if you play a game like Star Wars Knights of the Republic, I don't think there's any better tool, or at least to help a parent understand where their kid is developing socially, if they're more on the light side or dark side aspect of that. Do you think parents overall need to start taking video games more seriously?
I think there's no question they need to take them seriously, but what they need to understand is that, like in any medium, whether you're talking literature or movies or what have you, there are works in video game art, if we can be that pretentious, that take issues of choice and ethics and morality and violence and ways of solving problems, and they do things that are interesting with that. And those games offer an opportunity, I think, for people to explore moral choice. But I think it's dangerous to assume that the majority of people are playing the majority of games for anything other than just pure escapism. I mean, it's, people, I can't remember who it was, some game designer once said, people often talk about first-person shooters as being murder simulators. Actually, what they are is moving a dot on the screen simulators, because really that's what's happening. I think it's important to note that there's a pretty big buffer between the video game experience and the real-life experience. And we can make these games as immersive as we want, but at the end of the day, I think it's a pretty far stretch to suggest that it's going to be inspiring people to commit acts of violence.
Last question. You touched on something that I wasn't really going to mention, but you said it first. So pretty soon, I know for a fact, the porn industry will be making their jump into the gaming industry. I don't know if they're going to come to E3 or if they're going to have their own separate booth. Sure. Addiction levels are already starting to go on the rise. You've got television shows like Intervention showing what it's like for a game to be addicted. Right. My worry is that they may represent 40 to 60% of us already. What happens when the adult industry gets involved with the gaming industry? You've got two powerhouse industries. What do you see happening?
There's no question. Almost any piece of technology that demonstrates any kind of viability is going to get adopted by the porn industry at some point, right? I mean, you look at videotapes, look at DVDs, you look at the internet. The demand is not going away anytime soon. The ability to develop that content is only going to increase. I don't think we're really in a situation where we want to legislate that stuff out of existence. Look, we have a larger issue here, which is people need more balance in their life, period. I don't care if you're spending 40 hours a week looking at pornography or 40 hours a week looking at eBay auctions or something like that. The fact of the matter is you need to get out more, right? You need to go out, you need to have a social life, you need to get some exercise, you need to maybe change jobs, I don't know. I think the point is that technology can be alienating, and it doesn't really matter whether it's video games or pornography or what have you. We all need to have more balance in our existence. That comes with parents who pay more attention. Yeah, proper time management and just people being more aware of how they spend their time. That's really what it's about.
Thank you so much. Well said, sir. Thank you.